This is a little WVS educational tidbit that I am affectionately calling "What the heck were you thinking by running that horse in that race?" Um, and this is sort of a supplement to a webinar that I did maybe 2-3 years ago around the entry process for a horse race and how that works and some strategy and how it thinks about it. If you want to find that, just read below. There's a link. I'll link directly to it in the library, the Wasabi Venture Stables library. But this one, I want to talk a little bit more about some nuances there that kind of enhance what was talked about in the webinar. And this is one I'm going to throw in pieces that are probably maybe helpful to a handicapper. Definitely are helpful to anybody that is a co-owner at Wasabi Venture Stables, and probably the racing public at large, things that they may not think about, because the condition book is one of those things. Many racing fans that I run into have no idea that a condition book even exists or how a race happens. But understanding some of the aspects of it really can define your enjoyment for the game, especially if you're going to be an owner. Why the heck would you run a horse? So what I want to talk about is, you look at a race and you see a race and you've got a horse in there, and the race is the wrong distance or the wrong surface or both. Maybe at the wrong level, maybe it's too hard, maybe it's too easy. It could be any of those things, but it's way out of whack, right? It's completely out of whack. Well, sometimes there's an underlying horse reason. Maybe the horse is on its downward turn, so you're going to put it into an easier, cheaper race. But most of the time, that's not the case. What really is the case is that the condition book. Once again, go ahead and read watch the webinar below to learn about the condition book and the process and overnights and all of those things. But sometimes that condition book is not your friend, right? The races that are in there are races that you just have to go to. You got to pick one at some point if you have a horse. You don't make, as an owner, you're not making any money having that horse sit in the barn. And I'm not talking about stakes level races. Stakes races always go, right? So when they are, it's all scheduled out. But that's only like 15% of all the horses in the United States. The rest of the horses are claiming horses. They're beholden to the condition book. And no one knows when a particular race is going to go, okay? So often and now let's talk about from a handicapping standpoint. What does that mean? Okay. So when I see a horse in a race and the connections are people that are familiar to me in some form, I follow them, they're well known, whatever. And the horse is completely out of its element. It's either at the wrong distance, it's at the wrong surface, it's going too long, too short. It's at the wrong level. They paid $25,000 for it, and now they're running it at 16. Oh, is there something wrong with it? The first thing I do when I see something that's really out of whack, I go and look at the condition book. I look to see, and what I do is I put my hat on and say, if I was putting this horse in a race, what race would I have targeted? And then many of the times, I would say over half of the time, what you quickly see is that there was no other race for this horse to run into. It had to go in this race. And what often happens is you target another race, you put your horse in that race, and the race doesn't go. It doesn't come back on the overnight. You got to pick the next best option. And sometimes you pick it. Sometimes you got to run your horse. You got to, the other one I'll hear, and I'll see it on, horse racing Twitter, all of the people that know so much on horse racing Twitter, they'll say things like, well, what kind of idiot is going to put their horse in this race? It's obvious that it's a turf horse. Well, if you look at the condition book, there isn't a turf race for the horse, and you got to run it. Yeah, it's a bottom level claiming horse on the turf. What are you going to do with it? You at that point, maybe your only option is you stick it on a farm for 6 months. Well, guess what? That costs money, and at a bottom level claimer, you usually don't have that option. Okay, so that's the handicapping piece of it. If you see something really out of whack, really out of whack. Why is it running in this race? It doesn't make any sense. It obviously, I watched the replay last time out, and it was obvious that it wanted more distance. Why'd they put it back in for 6 furlongs? Now, the answer might be they're idiots. Okay, that could be the answer. But often it's not the answer. It's usually that the condition book tells them, we don't have any choice, we're running. Okay. So, and now from an owner standpoint, this is one of those things for new owners. I mean, the number of times I talk about Wasabi Venture Stables folks who are in on horses, I know I talk to you all the time about this, is that it's very hard to get your horse in the perfect race. It's almost impossible. And every day that you're not running that horse, you're spending you're spending anywhere between $100 and $150 for it to do nothing. Okay, every single day, that's what it's costing you. Okay, and you can't do that, right? The game just won't work if you keep waiting for the perfect race for a mid-level claimer or a bottom-level claimer or even a high-level claimer for that matter. You've got to put the horse in a race. Okay, and that sometimes you always want to put your horse in its best chance to win, because only winning matters in this game. It's the only way you can get the bills paid. Even seconds and thirds barely cover it most of the time. All right, so sometimes you just have to understand, I just got to run it. And sometimes in our private communications on our platform, you'll hear me say, I'm not expecting much from this horse. This is the wrong spot. Here's why we had to put it in here. But it's not that I'm an idiot. It's not that our trainer is an idiot. It's often we don't have any choice. Okay. And then from a general fan standpoint, make sure you watch the webinar below. Make sure you think about the condition book. Go look one up. Go find one at your favorite track, read a condition book, understand what's happening in the condition book. It'll give you a whole new perspective on what's happening when a race gets entered. So hopefully that helps educate you a little bit. Hopefully that gives you some insight that not every owner and trainer is an idiot. Often the condition book is just not true.